Dallas was once a friend. Both of them have been my predators. See, that's the problem with forcing an at-risk and disabled adult to live with drug addicts, alcoholics. That's the problem with allowing a person to be victimized over and over and over again. None of these people stop to recognize the sacrifices that I've made for them, what I've given up for them, what I've given up for their children, what I've given up for their children's safety. I've never seen Dallas Richmond abuse his children, ever. When I accuse people of abusing children, you actually have to abuse the child. Hardly like to accuse them of neglect. And, sure enough, he spent a lot of time over at the house playing video games. After I moved in and started paying rent, he quit his job. And he stayed jobless for like 7 months. Now that would be fine if he wasn't all depressed and into really loud noises when he's feeling down. The constant bombardment of loud noises for him makes him feel better, which ain't no good for me. Now, obviously, that's not some evil thing he was doing. It was just harmful. It was intentional. He knew that it was hurtful to me. He also knew that he's trying to preserve his fucking sanity. Now, Harley's physically violent. It happens. Not everybody who is a villain is a man. Most of the services we go to, these women are used to coddling women. How do they treat men? How do I treat them? I treat them with an equal quantity of disrespect. I don't think that's evil or wrong. Yeah, I said think. You get to see how nearly every woman who wanted to pretend like she was going to help me, she played outright stupid. There isn't a woman in America that doesn't know how to turn shit into the cops. Not one. And good luck finding a woman who hasn't been taught to kick a dude in the balls. Alright, I'm gonna run out of battery here real quick. But I am gonna make sure that I get a hold of these pieces of shit. Fuck these pieces of shit. Yeah, no doubt.
You've reached the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Your call is now being transferred to the Veterans Crisis Line. Your call will be recorded. Your call may be monitored for quality assurance purposes. During the silent transfer, you may hear beeps. Please stay on the line as your call is transferred to the next available VCL responder. Thank you for calling the Veterans Crisis Line. If this is an emergency, please hang up and dial 911. If you are hearing this message, you have been identified as a non-veteran caller. Due to your non-veteran status, the VCO has determined your needs would best be met by the assistance of your local area crisis line. Once this message concludes, follow the instructions provided and you will be connected to your local crisis line. If you are in need of crisis intervention services in the future, you are encouraged to call 1-800-273-8255 and no longer press 1. This will ensure you are promptly connected with the correct crisis call center and receive the most appropriate local support. Again, if this is an emergency, please hang up and dial 911. You've reached the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Para español, marque el número 2. To talk to the Veterans Crisis Line, press 1. To connect to support. Your call is now being transferred to the Veterans Crisis Line. Your call will be recorded. Your call may be monitored for quality assurance purposes. During the silent transfer, you may hear beeps. Please stay on the line as your call is transferred to the next available VCL responder. Thank you for calling the Veterans Crisis Line. If this is an emergency, please hang up and dial 911. If you are hearing this message, you have been identified as a non-veteran caller. Due to your non-veteran status, the VCO has determined your needs would best be met by the assistance of your local area
So
crisis
basically,
line.
you got to go to foreign countries and murder people.
Follow the
That's
instructions
stupid.
provided, and you will be connected to your local crisis line. If you are in need
That's a
of crisis
horrible way to
intervention
get help.
services in the future, you are encouraged to call 1-800-273-8255 and no longer press 1. This will ensure you are promptly connected with the correct crisis call center and receive the most appropriate local support. Again, if this is an emergency, please hang up and dial 911. You've reached the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Para español, marque el número 2. To talk to the Veterans Crisis Line, press 1. To connect to support for LGBTQI+ youth and young adults, press 3. Otherwise, to talk with a counselor, stay on the line or press 0. To improve 988, your call may be monitored and recorded. We are checking for a counselor who is available to talk. You'll hear music while we do this, and we'll give you an update in 30 seconds. You are not alone. We care and want to support you. Someone will be with you soon. We are continuing to check with counselors for someone who is available to talk. You'll continue to hear music and we'll give you another update in 30 seconds. If you are in the process of a suicide attempt, please call 911. Otherwise, please stay on the line. We want to help and we'll have someone available as soon as possible. We know your call is urgent, and thank you for your patience. If you prefer, you can text 988 to reach a counselor, or please stay on the line to be connected. crisis counselors are currently assisting other callers. To continue to hold for specialized LGBTQI plus support, press 1 now. All other calls will be routed to the main 988 Lifeline network. We are checking for a counselor who is available to talk. You'll hear music while we do this, and we'll give you an update in 30 seconds. You are not alone. We care and want to support you. Someone will be with you soon. We are continuing to check with counselors for someone who is available to talk. You'll continue to hear music and we'll give you another update in 30 seconds. If you are in the process of a suicide attempt, please call 911. Otherwise, please stay on the line. We want to help and we'll have someone available
No, the fuck
as soon
you
as
don't.
possible.
No, the fuck you don't. None of your crisis counselors care either. They want to get the words out as quickly as possible so they can just shoot they said them. See, the thing is, places like 988, their protocols push people to commit suicide. And the police, that's their auto go-to when it's a homeless person.
We know your call is urgent, and thank you for your patience. If you prefer, you can text 988 to reach a counselor, or please stay on the line to be connected. We're still working to find someone for you to talk to. While you're waiting, you can find more resources or reach a counselor through chat if you prefer at 988lifeline.org. Otherwise, please stay on the line. All crisis counselors are still assisting other callers. Your call is being transferred to the 988 Lifeline network. We are checking for a counselor who is available to. You'll hear music while we do this, and we'll give you an update in 30 seconds.
Why don't you put one on who's available to fucking listen?
Care and want to support you. Someone will be with you soon.
They were calling the Lifeline. This is Mike. How can I assist?
Do what?
So, thank you for calling the Lifeline. This is Mike. How can I assist?
Well, I've taken a lot of abuse at the hands of 988, all of your lines. And I really feel like being abusive back, but now that I have a male on the phone who doesn't treat everything like it's mansplaining, which is just an assumption, you might anyway. You know how police treat the homeless? They don't treat us very good.
Yes.
Instead of allowing us to make reports, we're sent to everybody else. And everybody else says it's not their job. And none of you tell the police that that's not your job. None of you tell the other agencies that we're sent to and that are sending us to you that it's not your job. It turns out it's literally nobody's job to do anything about abuse against at-risk adults who are homeless. It turns out none of you have that job. It turns out all of you just send us around in circles until we commit suicide. And you know what? That's the worst part right there. You know what pushes people to suicide? It's not our abusers. It's when we go for help, stopping the abuse, and we get neglected by the people who are supposed to care. In our family's case, they're supposed to care because we're family. In your case, you're supposed to care because you're 988 Lifeline. Most of these places, it's not volunteers, it's paid staff. These people are paid to care and they don't.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I can hear the frustration.
Yeah, I don't need to hear that. See, I'm not a woman who needs coddled. And I'm not trying to be sexist by saying that. All right? Men are taught from day one that our job is to protect women and children. Women are taught from day one how to exploit that. You know, I walk across a parking lot.
You have the genders for sure.
I walk across the parking lot and I get stared at just because I'm not a good-looking feller, just because I'm homeless, just because I ain't got the cleanest clothes, just because I ain't the tallest. You know, I'm not out here shopping for a woman. I go to the store shopping for dinner, shopping for breakfast. I walk out through the parking lot and women stare at me with the most disgusting and vile looks. And it's not all of them. Matter of fact, most of them don't acknowledge my existence, which is great. But I have to be afraid to even look up. If I even make eye contact with one of these sick gawkers, then, oh my God, I'm scared, he's rapey. Meanwhile, I deal with hate crimes every single day. Threats against my life, anti-homophobic friggin' comments, people calling me the N-word, following me wherever I go. And you know what? There's a whole YouTube channel full of evidence of that. Full of literally the events, also full of police officers who refuse to do anything about it because I'm homeless. I'm also disabled, but nobody does anything about that. The Northwest Senior and Disability Services here, they played stupid from the start and talked over me. Then they send me to TFCC. I go to TFCC, they talk over me. I get sent to Health and Human Services. This is a small town. None of these people are going to do their jobs. Now, the last few days, I've been recording the treatment from 988. I've been recording what it is that's pushing our veterans to commit suicide after calling you guys. What it is that's pushing so many youth to kill themselves right after calling you guys. What's pushing so many men to kill themselves right after calling you guys? Do you not understand the repercussions of the actions for which you all take part? Where a victim is blown off by police because they're not a popular enough victim. Where they're literally blown off by police feloniously to all of you guys, for you guys to send us around in circles. You know what leads to suicide? It's not that little girl's daddy who raped her that had her cutting on her wrist. It was when she went to her mom for help. It's not that little boy who's getting beaten on by his mom that commits suicide. It's when he goes to his dad and says, hey, Dad, Mom won't stop hitting me. Oh, son, you just need to man up. You know how much more likely women are to be physical abusers than men? A lot. And their conviction rate is next to nothing. And then I got to call these 988 lines and 211 lines, and y'all say exactly the same things. Exactly the same things. And all of you say, oh, We don't actually do that. Well, we're just a referral service. We're just a referral service. No matter what, when it's a male who calls and tries to get help, we're just a referral service. You know, that right there is literally what pushes people to commit suicide. And the fact that y'all are trained to act in such a way is so abhorrent. When we call up a place like you and it's a crisis, we need y'all to listen to the crisis, not push suicide like it's crack. Oh, we just want to know if you're going to kill yourself or anyone else. I didn't fucking call any of you guys, not a goddamn one of you. Not even once did I ever call you because I wanted to kill myself or someone else. Not once ever. That's the problem here, is that I'm getting pawned off in this way. All right, y'all need to have some responsibility for what you're doing. All right, here's what happens when that little girl comes to you guys, calls you guys and says, hey, my daddy won't keep his nasty cockbeaters to himself. I got into my mom, she ain't listening. Now you guys are supposed to turn it in, right? Of course you are. But what ends up happening instead? You know, what happens if you treat her the way that you treat men? Or you just send her around in circles? Or you have her locked up on suicide watch, getting a label of suicidal ideations because she's trying to tell on her daddy for not keeping his nasty cockbeaters to himself. Now, for us men, we have to deal with this. I grew up in the system. I know what it's like to be raped. I know what it's like to be beaten for the color of my skin. I don't hold no hatred for the LGBT community, for the predators within. I know that not every one of my friends who is in the LGBT community is a hateful bigot. I know that not all of them are rapists or child molesters, just as I know that my hetero friends, even if they're male, they're not all rapists just because they're male. They're not rapey just because they looked your direction. They're not trying to fuck you just because they said hello. And the more ugly we are, the more likely we are to be treated that way. Now I get that it's mostly young girls who are that way, usually until they hit about 30 to 35. At that point, yeah, reality steps in. But before that, it's a magical kingdom of pretty words fix everything. I'm tired of my friends ending up as corpses because cops don't want to do their jobs. I'm tired of police not doing their jobs for homeless people. I'm tired of them pawning us off on mental health places that instead of doing something about the abuse, they just send us around in circles. Oh, well, you got to go here, you got to go there, you got to fill this out, you got to fill that out. Oh, you're disabled, you can't walk up the stairs? Well, we don't care. We'll give you a second-story apartment if we gave you one, just to be a dick. Thank goodness there weren't none of those in Chapel. I went to mandated reporters for help because I needed help stopping abuse all the way back in 2016. Now, I did what I was told. When I was told that I needed to go to the Front Range of Colorado to get services there, that's where I went. When I was told that I had to rent my place in Chapel, Nebraska for a whole year at the assisted living place, yeah, I made sure that I tried to pay it for that full year so that it wouldn't screw up my credit. But you know what? I had to be in a hurry because the guy that gave me a ride there on the day that I was supposed to get all that done, I paid my rent, I paid my dues, I paid all of that. I even paid people to clean it when I was gone. But you know what? I only had to move because I was told by Nicole Peralta and also by Dual County Sheriff's Department that all the services are along the Front Range of Colorado. So no matter how much abuse I endured, I would literally have to go out of state to try to get help stopping it. How much sense does this make? And then people pretend like getting a stalking order is easy. No, in order to get a stalking order, you literally have to do the shit that would literally label you as a stalker. All right, they want all of these people's personal information. The only way to get a stalking order against somebody is to literally stalk them. Do you get that? Women are 11 times more likely to be stalkers than men. Men are between 6 and 26 times more likely to get arrested and charged and also incarcerated over it. And then I get to call a lot of these lifeline places that have women that I'm having to talk to, and I don't mind talking to women, but a woman has no clue what it's like to be treated like a man. That's why the most likely group of people in the United States to commit suicide are very specifically women who transition to be men. First time they realize men aren't holding the doors open for them and they run into one, you know, it just gives you a different perspective. Disabled people out on the streets are being harmed horribly, and the police are using you guys as their pawns. They refuse to investigate crimes that are committed against us, and they pawn us off on you guys because they don't want to do their jobs for us. And then every one of you that we go to, it says, if this is an emergency, call 911. If it's an emergency, 911 is going to have me call you guys. They're not going to investigate. They're not even going to allow me a place to sit down in peace and quiet and make a police report. They're not going to allow me to make an oral report without talking over me like I'm an animal. .988, their policies, all of them, are pushing people to commit suicide. And the way that men in specific are treated when they're called, this is not okay. Women have access to a lot of services. And then we also have societal expectations of when something bad happens to a woman, we're supposed to drop everything right now. When something happens to a man, as a disabled person, I'm supposed to go to my friends and family because I'm so easy to talk over and so easy to blow off, and everyone does it. Right now, you're not doing it, which is an amazing thing, but I'm pretty sure as soon as we get done with this, you're going to have to ask me those questions that you get in trouble if you don't ask. So no, I'm not trying to kill myself. I'm not trying to kill anyone else. People have been threatening to kill me and my family for years. My sister has had to move on more than one occasion. And I'm sent to police officers who I'm trying to turn in other crimes. There's a woman named Natalie Bollinger who got her brain in 2017. She was my best friend in 2016. I haven't had a friend since then. See, when you're homeless, you don't have easy access to anything. And if the cops decide they're going to pull some BS on you, you lose everything. If they decide that they don't want to investigate, they just want to take one person's word over another, there's nothing you can do if they can call you disabled. If you're homeless, they'll just assume you're mentally ill, and everyone else rides right along with it. Oh, I'm getting restricted calls. I get hundreds of those. And then a lot of these services that call me from these restricted numbers. I can't tell them from Adam. They refused to set up a. We set up a couple of places here where I was going to speak with some professionals and have someone there so that my safety was actually at least somewhat taken into consideration. And my fears. If you've never been homeless, you're not going to know how the police treat us. You're not going to know how women treat us. Like, I get to hear about how horrible women are, and you know what? For the most part, they're not. They're just detached in the same way we are. We're taught that we're a lot more different than we are. The real difference is that when we're born, boys are taught that it's our job to protect women and children with our lives. And women are taught how to manipulate that. And even if you didn't teach your kids that, your wife didn't teach your kids that, society still teaches your kids that. And it keeps showing it to them all through adulthood. And everyone blames those who are easiest to victimize. Serial killers and cops alike. They're more likely to kill a homeless person than anyone else by a lot. 61% of those killed by police last year were homeless. %51 of them were disabled, and 96% of them were men. Moral of the story here, I can't take care of myself. I can't just keep spending all my disability money moving. And my disabilities prevent me from even being able to take my computer into the library to set it up most days. I've called every service that there is, and they all send me around in circles. Not one person has tried to investigate a single crime against me. None of them have made any effort to work with my disabilities and allow me a safe place. Instead, I'm victimized by the public, and then when I call the police, I'm victimized by the police. I tried to get the police here to do something about the bullying, but the police were my first bullies here. Sure, there's a lady named Molly who was actually technically my first bully, but the police bullied me when I tried to turn that situation in. And then later on, they make every excuse and they send me around in circles. And it's the moment I start talking about police and what they did that most people tell me they can't do nothing. It's not their job. All they can do is refer me to another service. As a result, I've got over 2,000 calls to various services doing exactly that to me. I want my life to end every single day, but rather than trying to end it, I'm trying to get help stopping the abuse that causes it. And that includes calling 988 and getting blown off and having people grill you. You know what happens when you say, yeah, I'm thinking about hurting myself or someone else. If you say you're thinking about hurting yourself or someone else, they take you to the hospital. They put a label on you that you're either suicidal ideations or narcissistic rage, homicidal rage, or homicidal ideations. You know, I don't ever think about me killing people. I think about how to save lives. If I act like my predators to get attention, should I have to do that? No, I shouldn't. Once you have that mentally ill label, see, that's what they're after. Once you have the label of mentally ill, you're cannon fodder. They can shoot you whenever they want. Anyone can. Homeless people are killed at a 2-to-1 ratio over people in houses. Did you know that? That's just in homicides by the public. You all right?
I am. It's a very vulnerable population.
Yeah, and our most likely abusers are the police and our own communities. The
Yeah.
homeless community's number one rule is you don't talk to cops. They're not your friends. When it comes to saving lives, I'll break that rule. My rights as a disabled person are being denied here. My rights as a human being are being denied here. The money that people are paying to send us to these places, all it does is discredit the victims. It doesn't help the victims in the least bit. When 988 wants to push the suicide crap and the homicide crap, you know, when people are threatening to kill me and my families, I don't give two shits about that. I'm trying to turn in the people that are threatening to kill me and my friends and family. Instead of talking over me, y'all should be taking it up with the agency that told me it's your job. No offense to you personally. I got an ear infection in each ear, and I am piss and pus out of my head, basically. I can't hardly hear anything right now. When traffic goes by, it's a distraction for me, and when I'm in a state of crisis, that state of crisis being because people were harming me and still are. And that includes through neglect, intentional neglect. When I go to a mandated reporter because I'm being abused and I have evidence of the abuse, and all they're going to do is send me off to other places to help. They're not acknowledging my disabilities. They're not accommodating my disabilities. They're taking advantage of a disabled person who is in crisis. Taking advantage of an abused adult in crisis because of that abuse. Each one of these places in turn telling me it's not their job and giving me long-winded it's not their jobs. See, here's the thing is that it's not just 988 getting people killed. It's also a suicide hotline. Y'all been in the news quite a few times recently because of the number of carcasses piling up after calling you. You've been paying attention to that news?
I haven't seen that one.
Well, maybe I'll send you some messages of the articles. It's Sunday. There ain't nothing I can do. I'm being abused by the police here because of an officer named Tony Lothman. Over a situation with a stalker named Molly. And when I tried to turn it in, they sent me on a wild goose chase of mental health bullshit, allowing me a safe place to make my report or allowing me to tell them what was going on. Their standard practice here is to talk over the victim and sell their own narrative.
Re-victimizing you.
The police and the homeless community here, as well as all of the services that I've been sent to by the police. None of them are doing anything about any of the abuse that I'm trying to turn in. They're not accommodating my disabilities. They won't even allow me a room to sit down and write in. They keep wanting to send me to the library. They want to pretend that my disabilities don't exist. They'll ask me what my disabilities are, and I say them, and then they literally, next sentence, show that they're not a care in the world about it. They're not going to accommodate my disabilities. They're going to send me around to a bunch of 800 numbers. I live in my car. I got a screwed up back. I can't carry my computer even into the library most days. If I do, I may be stuck in my car, unable to move for a couple of days. Now, I've been trying to turn in these crimes by Officer Lothman for over a year, as well as the crimes committed by 911, 988 Suicide Lifeline, and 211. Sending us around in circles, sending at-risk and disabled adults around in circles, instead of helping them to turn in their abusers, instead of helping them to turn in the people threatening to kill them. Most of these services that I go to, it's women who just talk over me. I get that women have conversations differently. I get that they socialize differently. They're taught to. But I don't need somebody talking over me, making everything about them, getting all butthurt when I say, hey, I need you to do your job. All these mandated reporters, literally all of you that we're supposed to go to, that we're sent to when we're being abused, all of you only care if we want to harm ourselves or others. None of you care when people are threatening to kill us and threatening to kill our families. What you do is you send us to other places. When 911 is not a safe place to call because you are abused by police, because you're a homeless, disabled man. Because they don't have to do their jobs, because they can just let the harm happen to you, because the local public, they don't want to see you. The cops will come out and threaten and harass you for every Karen that calls them in. Oh, there's a shady looking guy outside my house. Oh, there's a creepy feller over there by Fred Meyer. You know, that's discrimination. I have Tourette syndrome and I can't turn that off. I have high functioning autism. They used to call it Asperger's. It used to be a completely separate thing from autism. It was kind of considered the anti-autism. But the thing that we have in common with low functioning autistic people is that we're abused in the same way. And we exhibit traits of post-traumatic stress disorder, nearly every one of us. We all show trauma responses now. People like me, we have parents who thought they could beat us into being normal, but our parents weren't normal. My parents were cocaine addicts. I grew up in the system getting beaten. Now the point here is that I never stood a chance. And I still don't stand a chance because mandated reporters are not doing their jobs nationwide. I had to go to females in all of the places that I was sent. Female caseworkers, female therapists, over and over and over again. All these female therapists basically mansplain over the top of me. They want to do the mansplaining instead of doing what they would do if it was a woman in crisis. They just send me around in circles. Do you know how dehumanizing that is? Do you know how hard it is as a male, knowing that you're going to be abused no matter what if you come forward, that you're going to be ostracized and criticized and demasculated? But you know what? I don't have any embarrassment whatsoever. That's one emotion that I don't have. When I go to people for help, it's not like when a woman asks for help. People will volunteer before she even gets it out of her mouth. For me, people want to talk over me, tell me I just need to do it myself. They want to tell me BS stories about how they did everything themselves. If you look up the name Natalie Bollinger, you'll see why I'm hated. But if any one of these mandated reporters had helped me to turn the evidence in, any of them had helped me by doing their jobs as mandated reporters instead of blowing me off until people were dead, instead of telling me that this is not their job, but not calling the police with me to say, hey, you need to stop fucking doing this. You're getting innocent people killed. You're sending them to 988, and we're sending them back to you. And they're telling us that you're not doing it. When a woman doesn't get her way, she just spreads rumors to your friends and family. She can go to the cops. She can lie to the cops. And people don't even care if there's evidence. They'll just come over hateful. Police don't act very nice to the homeless. And of course, if you were assaulted by one or might be assaulted by one, people will literally assault you as a homeless person just because somebody pretended that you might do something wrong. When people threaten my life, I'm told that it's not against the law. But guaranteed, if I do so, it'll be against the law. Why is there such a discrepancy? That's because of my disabilities and because people only help me with being able to get the recording stuff going and learning how to record it. I'm stuck in public and I can't function because I'm in public. I'm constantly looking over my shoulder for another person threatening to kill me or wanting to scream at me that I gotta leave town, streaming anti-LGBT slogans at me or calling me the N-word. You know, I got a lot of evidence of child abuse, and these cops just blow me off onto you guys. I got a lot of recorded evidence of abuse against at-risk adults on the streets, both by mandated reporters as well as predators on the streets. Neglect of an at-risk adult is a crime, and it is punishable in this here country, in every single state. And all of these mandated reporters that I went to as a vulnerable adult took advantage of my vulnerabilities. And instead of doing what it is that gets predators caught, which is taking it serious right away, I was forced and pawned to go to each one of these places by myself when what could have been done is that the right thing could have been done at the very start. The police could have recognized that I am at risk. They could have tried taking a look at the paperwork. Any of these places that I've been sent to and gone to in person could have taken a look at the paperwork. But they don't. They send me on a wild goose chase too. So I have to turn in 7 years of systemic abuse by law enforcement, 988, Veterans Lifeline, Suicide Hotline, and of course mandated reporter after mandated reporter. Everywhere that I went, I was abused by mandated reporters who didn't want to do their jobs, who wanted to talk over me so they didn't hear any details and pretend like because they didn't hear any details that I didn't say anything. At the beginning, I didn't have the ability to record. Now I do. At the beginning, when Natalie Bollinger was first killed, I didn't even know how to take screenshots on my phone. I'm stalked everywhere that I go. Now, I already know that it's a bad idea to start playing the recordings of all of the hateful things that people are doing, because you'll likely tell me that you can't hear the recordings, you can't listen to the evidence. All you can do is refer me to somebody else. I have recordings of every single agency in Tillamook. All of them sending me around in circles. Many of them, the people that I'm trying to turn in, because I have to go public on YouTube. These people know that I'm trying to turn in, and they get to abuse their power to have me harmed again and again. I don't have the money to buy their body cameras from them to show that they're abusing me. But I do have my own recordings, and they're not heard or listened to. I'm literally sent to the officers who committed felonies against me to turn in the felonies that they committed against me. They keep telling me different stories every time I go to them. I'm sorry for belching. So I need help stopping hate crimes. I've got evidence of a whole lot of them. But the one thing that I don't have is an advocate or a guardian, someone who actually cares about my rights and will speak up. Not one single mandated reporter in this country will do their jobs for an at-risk adult. All you do is push the suicide thing over and over and over and over and over. It's just like when that little girl who was raped goes to her mom for help, and mom blows her off. That little girl can't trust her mom anymore. It's just like that little boy when he goes to his dad and his dad blows him off. That little boy can't trust his dad anymore. That's what leads to suicide. For you, you're our mommies and daddies. That's the role that you play for us. We don't have family that cares, so we're supposed to go to you because we're vulnerable because we have no family. And instead of helping us, all of these 988 places, suicide hotline places, therapy places that we're sent to, they take advantage of us for, well, quite a bit of government tax dollars. Why are we paying them to do this? And each one of these agencies saying that it's not their job, it's someone else's, reading from the same suicide script. Saying, oh, well, you know, we want to make sure that you're safe from yourself. That's all we care about. That's mental health in this country. It is outright neglect. Even if I get them to agree to look at the evidence, there's always some excuse why they can't. Or I'm sent to officers who committed crimes against me. I call up and I say a crime was committed on such and such a day by your officers and I need to turn it in. And they assign me an officer. Of course, I can't remember every single name of every single officer, but you would think that they would check to see if the officer they're sending you was one of the officers there that day. They don't. Officer Amanda Jonas in Longmont, Colorado worked with an officer who had previously committed crimes in the Natalie Bollinger case before Natalie was killed. He didn't do his job. He assumed the guilt of the homeless male and assumed that the pretty female must be the victim, just like everyone does. And that makes it impossible to get evidence seen, especially when every officer you go to pawns you off on mental health, or 988 Suicide Crisis Line, or Suicide Lifeline, or therapy. So I'd like to set up a battle to turn in the crimes that have been committed against me. I need help getting a safe place where my disabilities aren't used to harm me, aren't used against me, where I'm not forced to do a bunch of things that I'm literally incapable of doing. And I know there's a lot of stuff there that you can't do anything about, but these crimes that have been committed against me have been ongoing for over 7 years. And people are dead as a result of it.
Yeah, they've been overwhelming you for some time now.
Absolutely. sending me.
You got a lot of evidence. To hear it.
Do what?
Sounds like you got a lot of evidence. Nobody wants to hear it.
Exactly. Or they tell me that they can't. My phone is about to die. I need to be able to turn in the crimes that have been committed against me. When these crimes were first committed here, and I did go to the cops right away, they didn't do their jobs. And then their excuse every time after that, when they sent me to mental health, is that I should have called 911. They don't bother to think about whether or not I did call 911. Meanwhile, 988 and 211 keep telling me that I need to call 911. By the way, I got arrested for calling 911 after 988 told me to call 911. Over and over again. All of you tell me to call 911. These people prey on the fact that I can't take care of myself and I don't have a place to do the paperwork. They try to shove it off into civil. No, I'm a disabled and at-risk adult. These are felonies committed against me. These people are intentionally obstructing justice. And they're preying on my disabilities to do it.
Yeah.
Now I got 7 years of backlogged abuse that needs turned in. So how do I do that?
Well, it sounds like you've had no luck with the police department.
That is correct.
Has anybody heard the evidence?
There are people.
On any one of the incidents?
There are people who are witnesses to the situations who are recorded on my YouTube channel. A lot of the evidence is recorded on my YouTube channel. There's literally thousands of people that look at the evidence, but I'm not a liked individual. I have a lot of stalkers. Do what?
You got a YouTube channel. That's really good.
Yes, sir. I didn't have one before Natalie was killed. Yeah, well, the problem is that I have communication difficulties, and I have upon my environment. The more scared I am, the more of an issue it's going to be.
Sure. It gets more anxious. It gets difficult to communicate.
Yeah.
I think you're doing an amazing job, by the way.
Thank you, sir. One of the issues, of course, that I'm going to have is that there's a limited amount of time and people want to rush me and then I can't function. Or they want to, instead of helping me with the paperwork, they want to talk over everything that I'm telling them. They want to pull a devil's advocate, or they want to hand me the paper and send me out the door and tell me to do it myself. I have nerve damage from an assault by Waylon Lolatai. His name is pretty easy to look up, and he was a violent officer. He also played for the University of Hawaii and Colorado State University before becoming an officer. He was also on administration.